The crackle of the fireplace filled the living room with an almost serene warmth as I sat in the armchair, staring into the flickering flames. On any other night, the fire might have been soothing, but tonight it served a far darker purpose. I leaned back, sipping whiskey from a glass that had been sitting on the shelf far too long. The drink burned on its way down, but the feeling was nothing compared to the searing betrayal coursing through me. Emily had always been the love of my life, or so I thought. We'd been married for 7 years, and in that time, I built a life around her. She was charming, ambitious, and always the center of attention wherever she went. I was proud to call her my wife. That pride turned to ashes 3 days ago when I stumbled upon a series of messages on her laptop, left open in her rush to pack for her business trip. Those texts weren't work-related, not unless her job description included secret rendezvous with someone named Greg. My heart sank as I read the explicit details of their plans, the hotel booking, and worse, her casual dismissal of me as nothing more than a boring safety net. It was as if my world had been yanked out from under me. I wanted to confront her right then and there, but something stopped me. Perhaps it was shock, or maybe it was the realization that an impulsive confrontation would only lead to more lies. Instead, I decided to wait, to let the storm inside me brew until I could channel it into something decisive. Emily returned tonight, suitcase in hand, a glowing smile on her face as if nothing had happened. "Hey, babe, I missed you," she called out, kicking off her heels at the door. Her tone was sugary sweet, almost convincing enough to make me doubt what I knew. Almost. I watched her from the armchair, taking another sip of whiskey. "Did you have a good trip?" I asked, my voice carefully neutral. She hesitated for the briefest moment, then recovered. "Yeah, it was productive. Exhausting, though." She made her way to the kitchen, undoubtedly expecting me to follow and help with her bags like I always did. But not tonight. When she noticed I hadn't moved, she glanced back. "You okay?" "Perfectly fine," I replied, letting my words hang in the air. My calmness seemed to unnerve her slightly, but she shrugged it off and busied herself unpacking. I waited until she had settled in, chatting away about her busy meetings and hectic schedule. Her lies flowed effortlessly, each one like a dagger twisting in my gut. Finally, she asked, "What's burning in the fireplace?" "It smells different." I leaned forward in the armchair, resting my elbows on my knees. "Why don't you take a look?" Her brow furrowed as she crossed the room to the hearth. The moment she saw it, her face drained of color. "What the hell is this?" she whispered, her voice trembling. The flames devoured the remnants of our wedding album, the photos curling and blackening as the fire consumed them. The box of keepsakes, our love letters, anniversary cards, and even the dried flowers from our wedding day lay next in line to feed the hungry blaze. "It seemed fitting," I said, my voice cold and steady. "These things don't mean much anymore, do they?" She turned to me, her eyes wide with a mix of panic and anger. "What are you doing? Have you lost your mind?" I stood, setting my glass down on the coffee table with deliberate precision. "No, Emily. For the first time in days, I'm thinking very clearly." She took a step back, the firelight casting eerie shadows on her face. "I don't understand." I pulled my phone from my pocket and opened the photos I'd taken of her laptop screen, holding it up for her to see. Her colorless face told me she recognized them immediately. "Care to explain who Greg is?" Her mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. It's not what it looks like," she stammered. "Really?" I said, raising an eyebrow. "Because it looks like you've been screwing him behind my back for God knows how long." "It was a mistake," she blurted out. "I was lonely, and you've been so distant lately." I laughed, a bitter sound that felt foreign even to me. "Distant? I've been working my ass off to build a life for us, to give you everything you wanted. But I guess that wasn't enough for you, was it?" Her eyes filled with tears, but I felt no sympathy. "Not anymore. Please, we can fix this." "It didn't mean anything." "Didn't mean anything?" I repeated, my voice rising. "You planned an entire trip around him. You called me boring. You lied to my face every day, so don't stand there and insult my intelligence by saying it didn't mean anything." She broke down, sobbing into her hands, but I refused to let her tears sway me. I thought about confronting you when I first found out, I said, pacing the room. But then I realized you don't deserve that courtesy. You deserve to feel what it's like to have your world ripped apart. Her head snapped up. What are you talking about? I walked over to the mantel and picked up an envelope. I spoke to a lawyer. Divorce papers are already drafted. You'll find copies of the evidence attached. I've also contacted Greg's wife. She was very interested in knowing what her husband has been up to. Her face twisted in horror. You didn't. Oh, I did. She's probably confronting him right about now. I slammed the envelope onto the coffee table. Take a good look. You'll find it's more than fair. I'm not interested in revenge beyond this. I just want you out of my life. She sank to the floor, clutching the envelope like it was a lifeline. Please, don't do this. I love you. You don't love me, I said, my voice icy. You love the comfort I provide and the stability, but you threw away the one thing I needed from you. Loyalty. She continued to plead, but I'd heard enough. I grabbed my coat and keys. You have until the end of the week to move out, I said, heading for the door. If you're not gone by then, I'll have the locks changed. Where are you going? She cried. I paused, my hand on the doorknob. Anywhere but here. And with that, I stepped out into the cool night air, feeling the weight of betrayal begin to lift with every step I took away from her. In the weeks that followed, I filed for divorce and started the process of rebuilding my life. The sympathy from friends and family was overwhelming, but I didn't dwell on their pity. Instead, I focused on myself, rediscovering the hobbies and passions I'd set aside during my marriage. As for Emily, she moved out quietly, her pleas for reconciliation dwindling as she realized I wasn't coming back. Greg's wife left him, and last I heard, he was struggling to pick up the pieces of his shattered life. Good riddance. The fireplace has remained unused since that night. I keep it as a reminder, not of the pain, but of the strength it took to walk away. Betrayal may have burned my past to ashes, but from those ashes, I've begun to rise anew.